I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. So it should start saving everything now because
Okay.
StreamYard lets me download all of the streams I do private
Yeah.
or public and the audio as well. So
Well, what
yeah,
about the
because
first half of the conversation? I mean,
well we were offline. I don't know if it'll save that, but I'll check. But it might have. I
okay.
don't know.
Well, how about this? How are you feeling right now?
Um, Fine.
You good? Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm wondering. I know Steve has seen the interview video with Cindy. I wonder if Kent has seen it because I don't
Okay,
know.
so they think that, or at least they have thought up until recently, that this was all about Cindy. This was all her crusade, and she was an angry woman with a vengeance and a axe to grind. Um, but like we discussed earlier, before your interview, before Cindy and you did that interview, I was on the phone with Cindy and I was encouraging her. She wanted to do the documentary. She wanted to take some time and put everything together piece by piece and really just have this one solid whack and take it down. But I think you and I know, if you're going to chop down a tree, it takes a lot of work and it takes some time. It's not easy. You have to have some very well aimed precision firepower to be able to take a tree down in one blow. Uh, Kent's one of those trees that you're just going to have to chop away at until you get results, because he has this empire of lies that's so far reaching, and its tentacles are everywhere in the world. I mean, you look at how many languages his series is translated into, and you know what, Paul Abramson, thank you for doing that. You did a fantastic job with the translations. You're a hero and a saint. I'm just going to say that. You guys looking at Paul Abramson, he's a good man. But back to Kent. Uh, yeah. So we've been talking for a while about this, and you're the interviewer, I'm the interviewee, so I'm gonna let you kind of ask some questions and guide this. I've got a lot to say, and I'm sure you've got a lot of answers, or
Well,
got a lot of
how,
questions. And
yeah, how long were you at DAL for?
okay, so my first time at Dinosaur Adventureland was in June of 2018. My daughter and I went down to visit after a family vacation. And I had already watched the seminar series. I had already watched a lot of the debates. I was already hooked. His charisma, his charm, the person you see on YouTube, on the videos. I was already hooked. There was no going back at that point. Once I met the man, once I saw this 140 acres of just fun, it was a big playground. And it's often been described as, just Kent's playground. And that's what it is. He has a good time out there. And a lot of people have fun out there. But what you see on the outside, on the video, and what you see after you've spent some time at Dinosaur Adventureland is something much, much darker. It's I witnessed a little boy drown, and that could have been prevented. And Kent Hovind went to the hospital with the boy's family and was handing out flyers. He wasn't there to support a grieving family. They had just lost their brother. They had just lost their son, a precious child of God, slipped away from their very, very hands. And I saw that, and my daughter saw that. And Kent is so calloused and so cold that he's cracking jokes and handing out flyers in his hospital.
Yeah,
And
there's something wrong with his brain chemistry.
yeah,
I feel like that's a that's a psychopathy.
I
That
think
is
Cindy,
a fundamental um, disorder with his brain chemicals because there's simply no way for a normal person to be in that situation and not feel empathy, not feel sympathy, and not be sad.
I mean, I'm sitting here, over a year removed from the situation, and I'm still shaking from it because it was painful. And when you relive painful memories, they tend to, you scratch at that scab long enough, it's going to bleed a little more.
I mean, it's like he literally didn't care.
No. And what's even worse, he promised the family that he was going to do this like memorial dedication. He was going to build him a gazebo on the end of his dock, which was something he wanted to do for himself for a long time. This was no new plan. It was long talked about, long discussed. He wanted to do it, and then he scheduled a time for the family to come, and they were going to have this dedication of this gazebo that wasn't even built at the time. In fact, when the Alexander family showed up, Kent didn't know why they were there. He had forgotten. And it was this mad dash, this mad rush to build this gazebo. And I'm talking about we're
We lost him. Well, I know he'll be right back. But yes, Kent is he's always starting a new construction project. He's always rushing people to finish the construction project by some arbitrary date, like his new church building. You know, he's scrambling to get it done by July 4th. And it's like, well, why does that even matter? Oh, okay. I'm going to add him.
um not sure why. That's the second time that's happened. But anyway, uh yeah, he shows absolutely no remorse or no sympathy or empathy. Cindy put it best when she said he's a malignant narcissist. Um
Yeah.
I'm no physician, I'm no doctor. He claims to be a doctor, which that's a whole nother thing. I'll never call him doc again because
No.
I know him to be a fraud, and the Bible says a double-minded man is wayward in all of his ways. So I don't believe anything the man says, none of it. Not
Right.
the real man. His facade that he puts up, yeah, he speaks some truth, but the man behind it is not the same person. He's an actor. So back to the gazebo story. The family, they showed up, and it was this mad dash to build this gazebo so that we could do this dedication that Kent had promised this boy's father. And everybody was looking at Kent like, you told him to come for this that we haven't even done. Like, why didn't you tell us? We would have done it. We would have had this done. You didn't tell us. And he forgot. So they were screaming and yelling and cussing, and people literally fell into the water building this thing. I mean, it's adults falling into the water, but the irony there is just, I mean, we're building a gazebo to memorialize a boy who hit his head and fell in the water and drowned, and there's grown men falling into the water. It's stupid. It's
Well,
dangerous.
I feel like forget about the gazebo. How about let's get some lifeguards? How
Right.
about installing some safety railing
Thank you. Thank
or
you.
you know, so, like anything,
Basic,
or or
basic
or
precautions.
or get an above ground pool for kids to swim in. Get a don't let the kids swim in the lake. Get
Right.
an above ground pool. You know, one of those circular pools, and that way it's totally safe.
Yeah, and if not a lifeguard, I mean, at least have some life jackets out there, and they have them out there now. They weren't readily available then. They were chucked in the storage shed. I mean, it's thrown all over the place. Nobody maintained the lake, the pavilion. It was just there. Richard Vanderberg used to maintain the lake and the pavilion, and he did a really good job. He was really good, but he was thrown out by Kent. He was tossed aside, and it's just this consistent pattern of Kent completely neglecting anybody's, safety, anybody's well-being, anybody's, you know, sanity even. He will drive you insane, and he enjoys it. He gets off on it.
Yeah. Um, he is always scheduling a new construction project.
Yep.
Even 5 years in, he's always starting new construction projects, and he's always picking an arbitrary date that the
Yeah.
construction project has to be finished by. Like,
Right.
he's just for the simple fact that he said that the room that he films his videos in, that there's not enough room for it, it's not big enough now all of a sudden. So
Yeah.
instead of clearing out some space in that room, or adding on or you're knocking down a wall and adding some extra room, no, we have to build an entirely new church building. It has to look like a
Right.
church with a church bell and a steeple from
Yeah.
scratch,
In my
and it has
time,
to be done
which,
by July 4th.
it doesn't take a lot of space to film a YouTube video. It really doesn't. I'm sitting in my bedroom in a chair in front of my computer and I'm
Right.
broadcasting on my cell phone. It doesn't take some computer guru, tech IT savvy dude to do this kind of thing. I'm pretty much a simpleton and I've managed this much. Steve is considered like the golden calf, brilliant genius IT guy, completely irreplaceable.
That guy doesn't know
And
shit about IT or computers. I
no,
guarantee you that.
no, he doesn't. I mean, he acts like he does. Oh, there's so many incidents. I don't even know if I could talk about everything in one day. Like, this is going to be multiple interviews, and I'm sure at some point the authorities are going to tell me to shut up and talk in court alone. But they haven't yet. So I'm telling people because if they're not going to move their asses and get that man away from these children and prevent people from being deceived, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk. I'm going to tell everybody that I can the truth about Kent Hovind because he's not who you think he is. And
That's right.
I told you before we started recording this, I'm not out for blood. This is not a personal vendetta. This is not something that I'm doing because somebody else came out. No, I'm doing this because I held something inside of me that was deep and dark and sinister, and I can't hold it anymore. I can't cover for these lies. I can't cover for the hypocrisy. I can't cover for the deceit, the malignity, any of it. It's not right. It's unjust. And anybody can look at the situation objectively, reading all the data, all the information, all the conversations, everything that's there available for you to read. You don't have to, guess. It's there. You can see for yourself. The man's got to be stopped. And I can't stand by and let what's been eating me up remain in the dark. It has to be brought to the light. People have to be able to see this. They have to know who this man really is and what he's really up to.
Right. Before another child dies or gets hurt.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to know where that boy is. I've still yet to get an answer. I've been asking for over a year and nobody will tell me. They keep saying, we'll call his mom. Paul Hansen keeps saying, we'll call his mom. I'll get in touch with his mom. Well, do it already. Give me her number. Let me call her. Satisfy this question that's burning me and eating me alive.
Yeah. In my experience, if you are trying to get somebody to do something, or you're asking them, to a question, and they're stalling, they're making excuses for why they're not doing it
Yeah.
over a
They
long
move the
period of time. They don't
goalposts.
they don't want to do it. They don't care.
Right.
They
Right.
don't care about doing it, or they actively don't want to do it.
Right.
And there's a
So
reason for that they're not saying.
are you familiar with the $500 million lawsuit
Oh
that
yeah,
was
I did a
recently
whole video about it.
it was laughed out of court, called
Yeah.
delusional, which is a word I'm going to use with these people to describe them. They are delusional. They are
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
100% delusional.
Yeah, Kent lives in his
There's
own world, his own fantasy world.
yeah, it's a dissociative reality that they are, and I used to be a part of it. So I think I can speak from a position of some sort of authority when I say that, it's an empire of lies. It's all a delusion, and you really have to twist your brain into all kinds of knots to be able to live with yourself and to be able to bear the weight of your own conscience to keep their secrets and to be able to fall in line when it says shut up or leave, go start your own ministry. It's oppressive is what it is. It's oppressive.
Right. Well, I was talking earlier about how Kent is always rushing people to finish these construction projects, and that's a trademark sign of a cult where you work people so much
Yeah.
that they're exhausted all the time. And the reason that they do that is because cult leaders, they want people to be so exhausted that they're not asking questions. They don't have
Yeah.
time to think for themselves. Like if somebody's been
Yep.
working 8 hours and then they go to a Bible study, or they see Kent do a debate where Kent is obviously saying things that are fallacious, or
Yeah.
he's being proven wrong, they're not going to have the mental strength to think, wait a minute, didn't he just contradict himself? Or
Right.
wait a minute.
Right.
And one of the most irritating things that Kent does is he'll be on camera and then he'll say something like, "Oh, I work just as hard as anybody here, right?" As if any of the people in the room are going to say no
Nobody can
on
work as hard as
on
Kent
camera
does.
in front of him. They're going to
No,
contradict him. Of course, they're going to say yes. So
right,
that means nothing when you and he does this all the time.
right.
It's so
Nobody works as hard
irritating.
as Kent. Nobody works as hard as Kent.
Of course,
And I mean, I'm not saying that in agreement. I'm just saying that
yeah,
as
I know.
you know, that's
Yeah,
his
it's
mindset.
like
Nobody
how
works as hard as him.
yeah, well, it's like how Kent says, "Oh, I'm nothing special. I live in cabin 7." It's like, Kent, you do not live in a cabin just like everybody else. You have your own house. It
Yeah,
looks completely different from the other places that
yeah.
people live at DAL. He said,
And I
and
was
I'm
building.
nothing special, but I have 4 fucking doctorates. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. So I was building my own cabin, investing my own money into it. I took my stimulus checks. I made some sales of some property of mine, and I was investing that money into my own cabin that was on the complete opposite side of the property because I was sick and tired of listening to Kent and Cindy fight. It was horrible. You know, I was living in the RV that he used to do his broadcasts out of. I had bought it, and that whole deal is sketchy, and I don't know. Like, I lived in that RV and supposedly owned it or was renting it or something. Uh, I was paying Cindy every month, and I thought the deal was just to word with me. It always kept my word with her, and there was no reason to question any of that. Um, but then it became a point of contention, and I'm sitting here living in this RV. I'm like, well, if Doc and Cindy split, I don't have a title. I've been paying Cindy. What are they going to try and pull? What if Cindy tries to take this out from under me? What if Kent tries to take this out from under me? I wanted to get out of the RV and build something of my own. And it wasn't in my head that I was leaving at that point. You know, I was still in the mindset of just suck it up. You're doing God's work. Kent's right. You just have to keep doing this. And yeah, I had questions and they were burning me inside, and I was suppressing them. You know, I was just pushing it as far in the back of my mind as I could, just to get by and to keep my head down and do my job. And you'll see a lot of people are going to say that phrase, "Keep your head down and do your job." Those are the people that are enabling this. You know, they're going to say, like the Nazis. You know, I was just doing my job. Well, you killed millions of innocent people, and it is a stretch to compare Kent to a Nazi. I will say that, and I apologize if that was inappropriate. But
No, no, I don't think it's a stretch at all, and I can back that up.
okay, well, I'm going to say I'm not quite ready to call him a Nazi. I will call him a heinous monster. You know, he could have prevented the death of one child, and that's enough for me to say you shoulda, you coulda, and if you can't admit that and make changes, then you're still a monster. I could have
Yeah.
prevented that. I could have prevented that boy drowning. I was there. I saw it. You know, I could have said, "Hey, those boys shouldn't be in the water in blue jeans." You know, that's something that I can look back at now and say, "Well, obviously, duh, I know better than that." But at the time, that wasn't my mindset. It was like, "Hey, let's go swim in the lake. It'll be fun," because that's the kind of carefree attitude and atmosphere that was harbored or encouraged at Dinosaur Adventureland. It was like this sense of freedom that, you know, you're away from the oppression of the world and all their rules and all their lies and deception. Where, well, yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of lies and deception. You know, the only wicked and evil is not in the Dinosaur Adventureland in the world. It's everywhere. The world's plagued with it. But he would have you so convinced that this was this safe haven and we were going to survive the apocalypse. You know, he keeps talking about it's about to start happening. It's about to start happening, talking about the tribulation. Well, he doesn't know the Bible. He doesn't know what it says. He doesn't believe it. He says he does, but he doesn't. And my goodness, so many people, like, I can understand the frustration of the atheists trying to argue with him, even though I don't agree with some of their points. Like, I get banging your head against the brick wall that is Kithovens' ego. You can't touch it. You can't, because he's got all these defense mechanisms built up and all these pre-recorded attacks that he's just got memorized one after another, these mudslinging lines, these zingers that he just constantly throws. And it
Yeah.
means nothing. It means nothing because he doesn't take the time to listen. He's always thinking about the next thing that he's going to say. He's thinking about his response. and he doesn't listen. He doesn't reason. It's Kent's way or the highway, and damn you if you're in the way.
Yeah. Um, he he likes making fun of people that he disagrees with, and
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
it's sad. It's pathetic.
yeah.
It really is.
No, I mean honestly, Kent has displayed uh, the beliefs, and uh, he said things that make it seem like he is a white supremacist or a Nazi. He's even
So
described
let
himself
me
as
touch on
saying he
that. Let
would
me
have been
touch
on
on
the
that.
master race.
Yeah, let me touch on that just a little bit. Kent has no problem throwing the N-word around. There was a live broadcast, and yes, it was in reference to a point he was making, but still, people get really worked up over that word, and people don't
Yeah,
want to hear it. I
I
can't
saw.
relate. I cannot relate to what it feels like to be called that or to hear that word.
Sure.
I can't. I did not live that experience. I don't say it because I can't relate to it.
Yeah.
And just the word that he used is so offensive, and everybody knows that. There are people that it doesn't matter the context of that word. It doesn't matter if you're painting a picture that's even in favor of their argument. It doesn't matter. They hear the word, they're triggered, and everybody knows that. And that's okay. People can be triggered by whatever they're triggered by, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being triggered. I mean, people get so worked up about that word triggered, get triggered by the word. And that's just human reaction to something that offends you. And Kent's offensive, and saying that word is offensive. And I don't want to focus on this too long, but I really just wanted
Well,
to touch on that because it is a thing, and people can go see it. They can see him
well,
carelessly use this word.
I heard him say it in a video one time. Is this something that he would do often, just at DAL, like when he's not on camera?
Uh, that was the only time I ever heard the word come out of his mouth, and it shocked me. But it didn't surprise me because I mean
Right.
he tells inappropriate jokes.
Yeah,
Like,
he says racist jokes all the time.
and he made this one joke. And I'm not a supporter of LGBT or anything like that. That's not my thing. It's not my battle. I'm a Christian. I believe what the Bible says, and I'm gonna leave it at that as far as that's concerned. But he told this joke, and my goodness, you can edit it out if it's too much. But he said he pulls this guy aside, this visitor, and they were about the same age. I don't know if they knew each other, but this joke, he said, back in my day, uh, getting a blow or blowing a tranny meant something completely different, and he thought it was
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
And I get some people like to crack jokes like that with their buddies in private, but this was in front of somebody he didn't know. And it's not okay to think that way. It's offensive to people. And while I don't agree with their lifestyle, I'm not going to sit here and make fun of them and cause them more pain than they're already experiencing, because I know what it's like to feel that pain and to feel that ridicule and to feel that shame. And it's not okay for somebody to harass you and ridicule you over that. It's not okay. And that's Kent's favorite weapon, is ridicule
yeah.
and shame.
Well, my avatar, the colors of my avatar are the bisexual flag. But I've seen Kent make these type of jokes, and it's pretty fucked up. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
I mean, there's a way. Sit down and reason, have a conversation, talk, listen to one another's side, why they feel the way they do. That's normal behavior. And it's so uncommon in our society today, unfortunately. And part of the reason is because of people like Kent, who push this hate and push this ignorance, and don't care to sit down and have a conversation and articulate their position in a way that's meaningful and expresses love and genuine concern for the other person. No, he wants to ridicule and whack you over the head and pretend you're some little SpongeBob animal. I don't know why. I hated that. It was so
Yeah.
disgusting. And we
Well,
all
well,
told him,
Kent
like, Kent, this is wrong. This is not the way to do it. This is not loving.
well, Kent has actually made arguments that if you start to believe evolution, that it will turn you into homosexuals. I've seen him say this before. He doesn't
I,
exactly come right out and say
did he
it,
back it
but
up with evidence?
well, he
Did he
quotes
back it up with research? Did he
Romans.
back it up with evidence? Did he back it up with
No,
anything?
a Bible verse. He backed it up with a
Well, I'm
Bible
not going to say
verse.
the
That's
Bible's
all.
wrong, and I believe the Bible, but but truth is what comports to reality, right?
Right.
And we have the ability to understand and reason through this world that we live in what we call reality, and see these things that are objective truth. And if you're going to make a claim like what Kant makes, back it up. Where's his supporting evidence that
Well, what he
if you
says,
start to believe evolution, you become a homosexual? I'd like to see the
what he says
statistics.
is that God gives up on you and gives you over to a reprobate mind, and that when
Because
that
you believe in
happens,
evolution.
right?
Because you believe in evolution. Well,
Yeah,
that's not what the Bible says. It does.
that's
The
his
Ro,
logic. It's
Ro,
ridiculous.
Romans does say that he will give them over to a reprobate mind, but it's not because they believe in evolution. It's because they believe a lie. It's a lie, and I'm not going to specifically pinpoint what lie that is that people believe, and I really don't even want to get into that because that's not our focus right now. I
Yeah.
have my opinions on the matter, and I'd love to sit down and talk to somebody and have a discussion and listen to their side and they listen to my side, because
Well,
that's what that's how we fix things. That's how we heal. That's how we build. And what Kent does is so antithetical to that, if that's even a word. It's
yeah.
it's the opposite. He destroys, he tears down, he builds these walls between people. Like he'll use this thing where he will paint somebody in such an evil and twisted and wicked light that if you talk to them or even have a conversation, then you're dancing with the devil. And it's like, no, no, I'm talking to a fellow image bearer of God, and you should see them in that same light. And if you can't, then why do you say what you believe? Why? Because it's a lie, and he's a trickster and a fraud. He doesn't believe what he says he believes.
Well, yeah. What Kent does is he equivocates atheism and evolution. So if you
Yes.
think evolution is true, that automatically means that you are an atheist and you think there's no God, which just
I
isn't
know a
true.
lot of theistic evolutionists. I know a lot of theistic evolutionists. A lot of them. They profess Jesus Christ as
Yeah,
Lord and
but
King of Kings, and but I'm not gonna make fun of them. I mean, Kent had me in this mindset where I had to make fun of people that believed in evolution, and he even had my daughter in this mindset where you have to make fun of these people, and that's not the way to get anywhere. I mean, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, we're not going to come to that conclusion where everybody's going to agree. It's just not going to happen, because this is a debate that's been going on since for all of human history. These are much deeper philosophical and religious questions that we have to address in that arena, not on a YouTube channel where Kent's slandering and slinging mud and preventing the kinds of conversations that need to be had. And
yeah,
that's not even, that's bad enough in and of itself. And I hope my Christian brothers and sisters that hear this can really grasp onto what I'm trying to say here. The man is a fraud. He's not a Christian. He's a wolf. But even for the unbelievers that are going to be hearing this, he's much, much worse. He protects pedophiles. He does shady business with shady people. He uses thugs to intimidate people, and he uses this religion, his religion. This is not biblical Christianity that he's pushing. He uses his religion to browbeat people into submission. And there's no way, unless you're complicit, unless you're enabling this, there's no way that a rational, logical human being can look at this situation with all the facts, with all the testimony, with all the information that's coming out, and be able to say that Kent Hovind's a good man. Nobody. Nobody can say that with a straight face and a clean conscience.
yeah. Like it's the people that see all of this stuff and still want to support him that I really wonder about. Like I
Yeah.
don't get that.
I was on the phone with somebody that's there at Dinosaur Adventureland right now this morning, and I had sent him a text message, and he misinterpreted it. He thought I was threatening him. I told him, because I've already talked to the authorities. I've talked to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. I've got a case number. I've talked to the Alabama Attorney General. I've talked to Alabama Law Enforcement Major Crimes Unit. I've talked to all these people. They're aware of what's going on. They're looking into it. There are investigations going on. These people have committed a lot of crimes, and they need to be held accountable. But they're sitting there screaming at me, well, if you're going to say this, back it up, file reports. I'm like, I already have. It's done. It's coming. And I was talking to Freddie. Freddie, please get out of there before it's too late. Before you won't have a choice. And he's got 5 kids and his wife, and it's just this beautiful family that's sitting there in this death trap, this mind trap that they can't get out of.
Yeah,
And
they're
it's
sitting ducks.
terrible. Well, Freddie called me back this morning and was yelling and screaming. He was so mad. He was so angry. And he threatened me. He threatened to come to Washington and take care of me. And, I mean, Freddie's 2,500 miles away. Freddie's a big guy. He moves slow. I'm not worried about Freddie. I love him. I would never, ever hurt Freddie. But the fact that Kent drives people who are otherwise intelligent and reasonable people, to this extreme where they're calling and screaming this vitriolic offense that never occurred and threatening people. I mean, he's trying to intimidate me. Kent Hovind is. Freddie's not trying to intimidate me. I mean, he's saying, I don't want to be here. I don't want to, stand up for Kent. Kent's wrong, all this. Like, then Freddie, leave. You can leave, but he can't because he's still trapped. His mind is trapped because Kent's got him convinced that this religion that he pushes is real when it's all fabricated. It's all false. It's all an act. He takes bits and pieces of truth and he twists it and manipulates it and makes people, he uses people by it. He uses it to use people to his own ends, whatever they may be. And I don't know the full extent of what ends he is using these tactics and this manipulation and suppression, this intimidation, all these signs of a cult, which it's clear writing on the wall. There's no denying that Dinosaur Adventureland is a cult. I denied it long enough. It's a cult. I was in a cult. I escaped a cult. Hi, my name's Mark Stoney. I escaped a cult.
Yeah.
Here's my story. So, poor Freddie, I really feel sorry for him. I really feel sorry for anybody that's there. And I know that there's people that are planning to get out. They want out. They can't leave yet. They can't. They don't have the means, but they're leaving, and they're still leaving. There's been a mass exodus over the past 6 months. Go back and look at the videos over the past few years and see if you see the same faces. I mean, yeah, you'll hear Jeff's voice. Not anymore because he doesn't go to the videos, because the crap that Doc puts him through has eaten him up so bad that he just hides in his cabin and only works. He works and then he goes to his cabin. There's no fellowship. He sent me a text saying he missed the fellowship that we had because when I was there, we would have morning Bible studies. We'd all sit around and have a cup of coffee and read the Word. And it was great. And that ended. Kent wouldn't allow it to continue after I left. And that wasn't the first time that something like that ended. Twice I've had Bible studies shut down because Kent got angry because somebody disagreed with something that was said. And that's just the way it worked there. If you had any kind of a difference of opinion, it was shut down and silenced. There was no room for questions. There was no room for anything unless you were somewhat famous. Like last year at his boot camp, he invited this guy. What was his name? I don't remember, but he was pushing some crazy theology that said that Christians burn in hell for 1,000 years.
Yeah, I saw that. You can't let the guy do a whole presentation.
Oh, and we were questioning the guy. Like you didn't get to see the grilling that we put on him. We really put his feet to the fire to try and get him to, address these scriptures that he was admitted.
He's been asked more than once lately, is it possible for somebody to take the mark of the beast and still be saved? And Kent will not give a straight answer on it. He will not give a definitive no.
He can't. He doesn't know what the mark of the beast is. He can't even define what that is. Is it a computer chip? Is it a barcode? What is it this week, Kent? What is your crazy dispensationalism, imminent millennialism telling you today? What is it?
Right. And
when's it going to start? Because
he's running out of time because it's 2021. The tribulation is 7 years. The rapture is supposed to be 2028. So it's supposed to
right.
start this year. I've heard him say September. So
Well, think about this.
I'm
Think
just gonna
about this.
laugh when nothing happens.
Well, something's happening. This is
Oh,
happening,
that's true. It's gonna be a tribulation for Kent. That's what he doesn't
no
realize.
doubt. Yeah. So maybe he was right all along, but he missed. He missed the mark. He was right, but
That's
he
a
missed
funny
the
way to
mark.
prove it. Yeah, maybe it'll be another 9 years for Kent.
At least I don't think he should ever see the light of day again. People that harbor pedophiles do not deserve to live.
Yeah, and I feel like uh, we can't even really mention the details of what transpired at
No,
DAL, but I have a video about
no.
Chris Jones on my channel, and all I can say is, frankly, it's sickening.
Well, here's one of the defenses they're going to try and use about the boy. They're going to say it wasn't on DAL property. It was actually at the property that Cindy currently owns, where Paul discovered what he discovered. And the reason that Chris Jones was there in that empty house with that boy was because everybody at Dinosaur Adventureland had a problem with him being there. And we said he absolutely cannot spend the night here. That's unacceptable. No. And it wasn't fully understood that that boy traveled with him and was with him and was going to be leaving with him. And I didn't know that that boy and that man were in bed together until Paul Hansen told me.
I don't know
The
how
whole
that's
reason.
possible
How is it possible?
that they traveled together. I don't like what is the arrangement?
I mean, he got in his car and turned the key and drove. I mean, that's what happened. I don't know how he got the boy. I don't know if that boy's name is what they say it is. Um, I thought it was kind of slimy that Kent goes on YouTube and says he's from Georgia, knowing that Chris Jones is his self-proclaimed best friend, knowing he lives in South Carolina. Why did he say the boy was from Georgia? What's he covering? What's he hiding? Is he really? I mean, that's a cover-up, right? To
Well,
conceal,
why does he even
conceal.
need to? Why does he even need to mention where he's from? Like,
Why did the boy need to go on camera?
yeah, that was weird. That was really weird.
Yeah,
I'll put a link to that video in the description.
yeah. I mean, I hope that somebody can put all this away or put all this together in a way that's digestible and concise and precise, where people can look at this and not get bogged down in the mud and in the weeds, because that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to sling a lot of mud. They're going to throw everything they can to slander my name, to slander Cindy. They've already started this. Look at Steve's comments. They've already started the threats. They've already started this, but this is textbook narcissistic behavior and clear evidence of collusion and a cover-up of something deep, dark, and sinister. And I'm telling you what it is. They cover for pedophiles. They're covering
Well,
for Chris Jones.
well, I think Theo should be the one to do that. I think he should make a Wolf in Sheep's Clothing Part 2.
Theo, like Cindy said, Theo tends to. I haven't seen all of Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, but I have seen a lot of his videos with some of the people that I've known that really tend to stretch the truth. And I don't want to see that happen again, because I think that Theo probably had a very strong case. But the fact that he went off the rails with a lot of ad hom, a lot of weeds, a lot of mud. I don't want that to be. I don't want that to hinder this cause. This cause is righteous. This cause has evidence. This cause has truth. It is not revenge. It is not. I'm not out for blood. Nobody that's coming forward is. This is about an oppressive cult that uses religion to control vulnerable people who have nowhere else to go and nowhere else to turn. The very few people that were strong enough to be able to look Kent in the eye and question him were run off. They were asked to leave. They were forced to leave. Uh, it's been told to me by multiple people that Chris said he was brought to Dinosaur Adventureland to run people off because Kent knew that we couldn't stomach his presence. And not only that, but Cindy's come out. I want to hear it. Where Kent, she says she's got an audio recording or some kind of image where Kent's talking about how good it feels, like taking a dump when people he doesn't like leaves. I mean, That's the mindset of this man. Like, I want the veil to be completely ripped away, and I want people to see what's really behind that mask.
Right.
I have heard. I don't recall who said it, and I'm sorry. I've been in this for years. I've talked to a lot of people. I've had a lot of conversations. I don't remember specifics of every single thing, and forgive me for that. I don't have photographic memory, but somebody told me that the reason Steve was allowed to stay there and do anything he wanted and get away with whatever with impunity was the fact that there was an arrangement for a $10,000 donation to continue coming in month by month so long as Steve was there. Um, so that's a theory. That's not my theory. It's something that I have heard from somebody who is connected to DL. I don't remember if it was Paul Brady or Kent, or no, it wouldn't have been Kent, of course, obviously, but my gut is saying it was probably Paul. Most likely because Paul. Oh, Paul, Paul needs to step away from the money. Paul thinks he's going to get this $500,000 lawsuit that was laughed out of court and called delusional. He's
Yeah,
delusional
half a
if you think
billion.
that's going anywhere.
Half a billion.
$500,000,000. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of money. That in and of
It's a big
itself is a
difference.
delusion. It's a
Yeah.
delusion. You know, you're not going to get $500,000,000 from the government. Is there even any precedent for that at all?
No, no. And in the legal documents, if you can even call them that, Paul Hansen and Kent wrote up, they accused the court system and the judges of violating several of the Ten Commandments. Like, what does that have to do with anything? And
I
and
mean,
and,
yeah,
and he listed "Thou shall not kill," and it says that they killed Kent's like reputation. Like, you're gonna say
wow.
kill metaphorically?
See,
Like, what? It's ridiculous.
See, that's just a perfect illustration of how he twists scripture. I mean, as a Bible believing Christian, we believe that our justice system is founded upon the principles set forth in scripture. We believe that, but we also delineate the difference between a civil government and the rule of law, the rule of and authority of scripture. You know, the Bible says that we ought to obey God rather than men, and that only means to say that if the man's law contradicts or conflicts with God's law, that we choose God's law over man's law. And
Yeah.
and
And
that's what real Christians believe. You know,
yeah.
if you disobey a just law, you should submit to the consequences.
Yeah, and the
And
Bible
Kent
says
did.
that you should render unto Caesar and that you shouldn't offend the lawmakers if they're just, and Kent
I know what
offended them.
scripture says, and
Yeah.
Kent doesn't believe the scriptures. Kent does not believe the scriptures. He says he does, and he rattles them off. Oh my goodness, there's been a couple of verses that I picked up that he would just consistently butcher and misquote, and I would
Yeah,
call him
he
out on it. It's
he
like,
he
Kent,
believes his own version of the scripture.
right. I was like, Kent, that's not what that says, and it certainly isn't what it means. But even after correcting him and showing him, like, you're saying it wrong, you're saying it wrong, this is not right, this is objectively, demonstrably, provably, you are wrong. And he would
Yeah.
just continue on. Like,
Yeah, it's
because
like when
Kent
he
that
talks about the unbelieving departing, like unbelieving, like the
oh my
spouse,
goodness.
the wife not believing in her husband. That's not
Yeah.
what that means.
So I was sitting in the car with Kent when he was on the phone with Robert Mitchell. He's since passed away. He's the man that married Cindy and Kent in Tampa. Um, Kent was trying to justify still being married to Mary, and he was using that verse that you just mentioned to justify sitting in that car, declaring Mary his not wife, and making a decision to marry Cindy. Now, the actual ceremony didn't take place. It wasn't carried out until, a couple days later in secrecy after they basically eloped from Dinosaur Adventureland, which, I mean, they're adults. They can do what they want. If they wanted to go off and get married, so be it. But the fact that Kent says he believes the Bible, the fact that the Bible says in the multitude of counsel there is wisdom, everybody there told Kent and Cindy, wait, get to know each other with the intent of marriage. You guys might have known each other for a while, but you've never had the intent of being married because Kent, you're still married to Mary. Deal with that first. Take your time with Cindy and wait. The next day they were gone, and they came back married. And that right there is just such a blatant disregard for what he says he believes. It's hypocrisy. It's pure, undefiled hypocrisy at its finest and most pure form. It doesn't get any more hypocritical than that.
Right. What did they go to, a Vegas drive-through or something?
Somewhere in Tampa, I don't know. They went to visit Robert, and he called him Pastor Mitchell. And this guy was another vile and hateful man. He was an addict too. He was using Kent to fuel his. Okay, hey, hello.
Yeah.
All right, so it's probably a good thing we got cut off there, because I don't want to get into this telling stories. I don't want to say anything that's completely untrue. I don't have objective proof that Robert Mitchell was a drug addict, but he was always squeezing Kent for money. It's like every few days it was, hey, I need $200 for this for my prescriptions. I need another $200 for this, and like every time Kent had money, he would go to Walmart and send him the money, and that's what was going on when I was in the car with him the time that he was twisting the Corinthians passage. He was going to Walmart to send money to Pastor Mitchell or Robert Mitchell. Well, Nick Shunk and I were really good friends. I need to call Nick and talk to him, and I hope he's going to be willing to come forward and talk about some of this stuff too. But Nick is the one that said that Robert Mitchell is using. He knew. I didn't know. I'm relaying the story as it was told to me. So Nick knew that Robert was using and addicted to drugs because Nick was a drug addict, and Nick knew how to identify the signs. And this was a grave concern because Kent was throwing so much money at this man. I mean, these people's hard-earned money. You know, people donate their time, energy, and efforts to this. I can't call it a ministry, and I'm really trying hard to stop myself from calling that place a ministry or calling him Doc, because none of that is true. It's not it's not that. It's something entirely different. But the fact that he was so careless with people's money. I mean, he didn't work for that money. Yeah, he talks a lot, but that's all he ever did. His entire college supposed doctorate dissertation was just his seminar series transcribed. I mean, that's not work. That's lazy.
Right. Yeah. I would say that to me that sounds
Like they definitely are the signs of a drug addiction, because this person, he needs $200 every few days, and the money needs to be transferred instantaneously,
And
because
the amounts
he's
varied. Yeah, the amounts varied. How much he needed from day to day, it varied. And if it's true that he was an addict, which I was married to an addict, uh,
it sounds to me like
if
he
it's
had
true,
drug withdrawals.
yeah, it fits the bill. It fits the MO for an addict. It really does.
Yeah, because
Especially
that's
somebody
somebody,
who
that's
is,
when you need money ASAP.
yeah, and
That's
like
so
the time that Kent and I were in the car at Walmart talking, he was on the phone with Robert. That was one of those times. It was late at night. Kent hurried to get to Walmart. He actually did not get there in time for the money center. It had already closed, so we were sitting in the Walmart parking lot, and he was talking to Robert. And you could hear in Robert's voice, and I don't want to go too much into his character and his actions because he's not alive to defend himself. You know, he's not here. Uh, it wouldn't be fair. I don't know Robert that well. I did not get to know him that well. I did speak to him some, but his connection with Kent is, I mean, why? What was that all about? Why would somebody even marry somebody who just decided to get married? I mean, it doesn't, not somebody that's biblical, not somebody who's rational and, supposedly a mature adult. And we've all done dumb stuff in our younger times, and there's adults that still do childish things, but a supposed mature adult, which that's what Kent and his whole group of people present themselves to be, legitimate, mature, rational thinking adults. And the truth is just so far from reality. I mean, sorry, their truth is what's so far from reality, because it's just it's all fake. It's all a front. It's all a facade.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds to me like you said that you could sort of hear it in this guy's voice, because it sounds to me that likely this person was depending on being able to score that night, and now he's facing having to wait all night until the next day for Walmart to open. And if you can imagine the disappointment, that to me definitely sounds like a situation of addiction.
And he was a chain smoker too. I mean, talking to him on the phone, you could hear him light up cigarette after cigarette after cigarette, and he had this really deep, raspy voice, and you could just tell. Like my grandparents, they smoked cigarettes their whole life. There's this distinct voice that people who are lifetime smokers have. That raspy, deep, muddled voice. And it was clear that he was a chain smoker. And like I said, you could hear him lighting up the cigarette. So this money that these people were pouring into this, what they thought was a ministry, is being funneled to this guy, which, like I said, I don't want to go and say that this is definitely a drug addict. I'm not going to say that because I don't have proof. I don't have evidence, but I do have testimony. I do have circumstantial. I do have experience. And I wish he was alive to defend himself, because I would welcome him to join this discussion, just like I welcome any of these people to join the discussion.
Yeah.
Quit slinging mud. Quit being so hateful. Let's talk. Let's reason through these things. But it's beyond that for them. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to have reasonable, rational, logical discussions, because they don't want it. They don't want it. They want obfuscation. They want it to be vague. They want everything to be shrouded in this secret Gnosticism that they're pushing, because they know right. And if you don't know things the way they know things, or believe things the way they believe things, you're wrong and you're out of the loop. You're a son of Satan. You're a child of perdition. And that's the mindset. Fall in line. Shut up. Put your head down. Do your job.
Yeah. Well, we're just about at an hour. So I didn't realize time had gone by fast. But
and that's not to mention that we've already been talking long before this recording even started. I think we had 3 interruptions.
Yeah, that's true.
I've got a lot to say. I'm really only touching the tip of the iceberg here, but it's a deep, dark rabbit hole that somebody's got to go down and expose, because these people, they're harmful, not just physically. Yes, there have been deaths around this from the neglect. There's a very real possibility that a boy was raped with their knowledge, and an intentional cover-up of the fact. There's definite labor trafficking. There's definite child labor going on there. I mean, everything about that place is wrong, and it needs to stop. It has to be stopped. And I'm not going to quit until it's taken care of, until somebody can tell me, don't worry, we'll take it from here. We've got this. I can't stop, because the truth has to be told.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I'm nobody.
I agree.
I'm nobody. I'm nobody.
I agree.
This is not my thing. I don't want to do this, but it has to be done.
So did you make a video that had some images of like text messages? Was that you that put up that video?
No, that wasn't my video.
That was a different person.
Because that's all my stuff. That's stuff that I've released.
Because I
want them to know. I want Kent, I want Ernie, I want Steve, I want them to all know that it was me talking about Chris Jones, pushing this narrative, because they were so focused on Cindy, because that's all they care about is the money. They're protecting their money, circle the wagons around the money.
Well,
they didn't see this
They
coming.
see her as an easy target. That's how they see her.
They didn't see this coming, and up until probably yesterday, they thought this was all about Cindy. They thought that the only reason I'm talking is because of Cindy and Cindy's interview with you. No, no, I was on the phone with Cindy. I was begging and pleading with her, let's do this now. There's people in danger. There's very real harm going on. There's very real people involved, and nobody knows where this boy is. We have to do this now. There's no more time for waiting. We can't excuse hiding this anymore. And there it is. We're doing this. It's out. There's a lot of people that are still going to come forward. If you go to the Facebook page, and I don't care if people want to fault me for doing this on Facebook, Kent had me convinced not to trust the government. Okay? That's where my mind was. And I've just recently broken free from that mindset. I mean, I've told you before, it's been 6 months since I left Dinosaur Adventureland, but it's only been a week since my mind has broken free from that deep, dark den of lies and oppression.
Yeah. Well, it's a transitional period for you right now, and I
Yes.
think in a way you're in a sort of a state of shock. But I think as more
I
time
think I'm past
passes,
the shock.
yeah, I think as time passes, things will start to settle down a little bit. But yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster, I'm sure.
For sure. Well, things for me will only settle down when I know that Kent can't hurt anybody else, and Chris can't hurt anybody else, and Steve and Ernie, and anybody who stands with them. As long
Yeah.
I can't rest. I can't. This is a worthy cause. This is a righteous cause.
Yeah.
And the truth will prevail, but evil prevails when good men do nothing. We can't just sit on the sideline knowing what we know and having the stories that we have to tell and keep that to ourselves. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not just.
Yeah, I agree. And, it could take a long time before, real
Yeah.
justice is done. But, I think we're taking small steps. But I think I'm going to end the video here, and we can keep talking in the offline. But I'm just going to end it
Okay.
here so
All right.
before it gets too long. But okay.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me on, AJ.